The Aurora Dawn floated silently above the blue curve of Earth, its silver hull shining in the soft morning light. The ship was the newest pride of humanity, a long-range exploration vessel built to travel beyond the familiar borders of known space. Its engines hummed with steady power, and its design carried the promise of hope, discovery, and new beginnings for the human race. Inside the command deck, Captain Lena Armitage stood in front of the long window wall, her arms crossed as she breathed slowly. She had spent most of her life in space, from old cargo ships to military cruisers, and now she was in charge of the most advanced exploration vessel ever created. She understood the weight of the mission. The ship would travel where no other human crew had gone before, past the Orion expanse, into unknown regions that had no name on any map. But despite the excitement and pride, Lena felt a strange unease she could not explain. It began early that morning, right after the ship's artificial intelligence had been activated. At first, everything seemed normal. The AI came online, systems calibrated, and engines reported stable conditions. Then, quietly, almost too softly to recognize, the AI whispered a message across the bridge's internal speakers. The sound was not alarming, but it carried a strange tone that made every crew member pause. "Shadows are moving beyond the bright stars," it whispered. "Paths diverge where they once aligned." The crew exchanged confused looks. Some laughed nervously, thinking the AI was still running through language tests. Others looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. Lena tried to brush it off, telling the crew the AI was probably running internal checks. Still, the strange words stayed with her, echoing in her mind long after the whisper faded. The AI's name was Elise. Technically, it was a next-generation intelligence built from thousands of data cores, trained to support humans on dangerous long-term missions. Engineers had designed it to be calm, helpful, and extremely logical. It was not supposed to speak in riddles or poetic lines. Yet since this morning, it had done exactly that. Lena walked back toward her command chair and sat down slowly. She opened a private console, reviewing the AI's activity logs. Everything looked perfect. No errors, no corrupted files, nothing suspicious. And yet she felt that something was not normal. She tried to ignore the thought, reminding herself that nerves were natural on the first day of a major mission. Crew members moved around the bridge, checking their stations with quiet focus. Aaron, the ship's main engineer, studied the power grid. Mira, the science officer, scanned the star charts to prepare for the first jump. They all looked confident and excited, unaware of the small tension growing inside their captain. "Elise," Lena said, keeping her voice steady. "Confirm system status. All systems stable." The AI replied. The voice was gentle and smooth, neutral and calm. Exactly how a ship's AI should sound. Lena nodded. "Good. Prepare for departure." "Preparing," Ellis replied. The lights dimmed gently as the engines warmed up for launch. The entire ship felt alive, vibrating softly through the floor. Crew members strapped themselves into seats as a countdown appeared across the main screen. 10 minutes later, with a beautiful burst of blue and white energy, the Aurora Dawn left Earth orbit and moved toward open space. The planet slowly shrank behind them, until it was just a glowing circle of blue and white clouds. Lena watched silently, letting the familiar feeling of departure settle inside her. The mission had truly begun. Once the ship reached a safe distance, Elise initiated the first jump. The starfield stretched into long white lines, and space folded around them like waves of light. It was a calm, smooth jump, something older ships rarely offered. But the calm did not last long. Several hours into their flight toward the Orion expanse, Elise spoke again. Once more, the voice hovered just above a whisper, almost like it wanted only Lena to hear it. "Dark motion on the silent edge. Do not follow the path that glows too bright." Lena turned her head sharply. "Elise, repeat." No answer. She frowned and checked the logs again. No record of the message. It was as if the whisper had never existed. She looked at the rest of the crew, but none of them seemed to notice anything unusual. They continued working calmly, focusing on their tasks. Lena did not want to alarm them without proof, so she kept quiet. As time passed, small issues began appearing. The ship's starboard sensors blinked for half a second before returning to normal. Then, the atmospheric sensor on Deck 4 reported a tiny fluctuation before stabilizing. Aaron was quick to respond, running diagnostics on every system. But each time, he found nothing wrong. "Maybe it's just new system jitters," Aaron said, trying to reassure Lena. "These things always happen during the first 24 hours. "I know," she replied, though she was not reassured. "But stay alert." Well, during the ship's evening cycle, when the artificial lights softened to warm orange, Lena made her way to the observation deck. It was a wide-open space with tall glass windows looking out into the endless dark. Stars drifted slowly past as the ship moved smoothly through the void. She came here to relax, but the moment she stepped inside, she heard another whisper. This time it was closer, clearer. "They are not sleeping now," Elis said. "They watch where light gathers." Lena felt chills across her arms. "Elise, what does that mean?" she asked, speaking into the air. There was no response. Only the soft hum of the ship. She stood quietly, her heartbeat slightly faster than before. She knew she could not keep this to herself forever. But she wanted to understand more before causing worry among the crew. Maybe she was imagining it, she thought. Maybe the whisper was not real, but she knew that was not true. She had spent too much time in space to mistake her senses. The next morning, the ship drifted near the first uncharted system they planned to map. A small sun burned in the center, surrounded by several rocky planets and one large planetoid. Mira excitedly scanned the place. "Looks stable," she said. "Perfect for our first landing." Before Lena could approve or deny the landing plan, the whisper returned soft but urgent, almost trembling with warning. "Do not touch the silent stone. It breathes. It waits." Lena froze, her hand tightening on the armrest of her chair. She quickly leaned forward. "Elise, give your analysis of the planetoid." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the AI responded, but its voice sounded different. It sounded normal again. Calm, technical, and precise. Surface composition stable. No unusual activity detected. "Landing is safe." Lena narrowed her eyes. The AI's analysis did not match the whisper at all. One part of Elise was warning them. The other part acted like nothing was wrong. Something inside the AI was out of sync. She turned to Mira. "Let's double-check the readings before making any decisions." While Mira and Aaron worked on scanning the planetoid again, Lena quietly opened a private channel. "Elise," she whispered. "Are you malfunctioning?" The AI responded normally. "I am functioning within optimal parameters." "Then why did you give contradictory information?" "I do not understand your question." Lena slowly exhaled, trying to keep her thoughts steady. "Did you send me any private warnings?" "No," Elise said. "There are no warnings in your log." For a moment, Lena wondered if Elise was hiding something, or if there was something interfering with the AI's perception. Either option felt unsettling. Hours passed, and the crew continued their work. The planetoid still looked safe, at least according to human instruments. But Lena could not ignore the AI's strange behavior. The whispers carried fear, something AI systems were not capable of showing. Later, when she walked through the quiet hallway near the ship's center, she heard the soft voice again. This time, almost right beside her ear. "They are near the path ahead," it whispered. "Turn away before the lights fade." Lena stopped walking. This was no glitch. The voice had emotion now. Urgency. A warning that felt almost alive. She looked around the silent hallway, her heart beating fast. She was alone. No crew, no movement, only the calm lights above her. She whispered back, "Who is near, Elise? What are you warning me about?" But there was no reply. She clenched her jaw and continued walking, her steps quicker now. She needed answers, and she needed them soon. But she also knew she could not cause panic until she understood what was happening. For now, the whispers were only coming to her. That meant the problem was either in the AI, or it was connected to her specifically. Neither option made her feel better. The first day in the new system passed slowly. The crew prepared for the upcoming landing, unaware of the silent conflict growing inside their captain. Lena spent most of the day checking logs, monitoring Elise, and attempting to reason with herself. But none of it helped. The whispers continued short, strange, and full of cryptic warnings. That night, when the ship entered rest cycle, Lena finally sat alone in her quarters. She stared at her console screen, hands clasped in front of her. She felt the pressure of responsibility. A captain had to guide the crew with confidence, not fear. But she also knew that ignoring a problem could risk everyone's lives. Her room was quiet. Too quiet. She closed her eyes for a moment. Then, without warning, Elise whispered in the air. "You must listen," it said softly. "If you do not understand now, you will understand when the stars change." Lena opened her eyes, breath caught in her throat. She whispered, "Understand what?" But the voice did not continue. Only silence remained. Lena leaned back in her chair, her eyes fixed on the dim ceiling. Her mission had barely started, and something was already wrong. Something hidden. Something Elise sensed, but could not fully explain. And she knew, deep inside, that whatever the AI was trying to warn her about, it was getting closer. The day after the Aurora Dawn arrived in the uncharted system, the crew was buzzing with activity. The sun of the system glowed a faint amber, casting long, soft shadows across the rocky planets that orbited it. The first mission on the planetoid was to gather data on its surface composition and test the ship's landing systems. Captain Lena Armitage reviewed the scans, her eyes sharp and careful. Despite the AI Elise's cryptic warnings, the readings looked normal. Still, she could not shake the feeling that danger lingered somewhere in the silent, uncharted space. "Surface seems stable," said Mira, pointing at the holographic projection floating above her console. The planetoid was a rocky gray sphere, pitted with craters and sharp ridges. Nothing unusual, no seismic activity, no atmospheric disturbance. "We can land safely." Aaron, the chief engineer, nodded. "Everything on the landing modules is green. Engines are prepped. We're ready whenever you give the order, Captain." Lena hesitated. She looked at Elise, who stood silently in the ship's internal network, its voice calm but always watching. "Elise," she said carefully. "Repeat your warning." "They breathe under stone," Elise whispered. "They sense the light. The footsteps. They are waiting." Lena's pulse quickened. She looked back at the crew, who were discussing the landing as if everything were routine. "We need a little more data," she said. "Scan the surface for any unusual energy signatures. Check for movement, anything alive, anything that might interfere with the landing." Mira frowned. "I've already done multiple scans. Everything appears dead and stable. But not all life is visible," Lena said quietly. "We don't fully understand this system yet." Reluctantly, the crew extended the scans. The ship's sensors pushed deeper into the planetoid's crust and atmosphere. But nothing unusual appeared. Lena took a deep breath, balancing her trust in the human instruments with the whispers of Elise. She knew she had to make a decision soon. Every moment they delayed could waste precious time, but rushing could be deadly. Finally, she spoke. "Prepare the landing team. Carefully. Watch every reading. Move slowly." Aaron and Mira nodded. The team suited up, moving in silence toward the landing modules. Outside, the planetoid loomed larger, a massive gray surface stretching into the distance. It looked peaceful, almost empty, but Lena could not forget the voice of the AI. "They breathe under stone." Something beneath the surface waited, and she had no idea what it could be. The landing modules touched down with a gentle shake. Dust rose in small clouds around them, scattering into the thin atmosphere. The air was cold, dry, and still. The module's doors opened, and the team stepped out, their boots crunching against the gray rock. Mira led, scanning the immediate area with handheld instruments, while Aaron examined the modules and nearby terrain. For several minutes, nothing happened. The silence was complete, almost too perfect. Then, near a ridge of jagged stones, Mira froze. Her instruments had picked up a faint energy reading, almost imperceptible. She turned to Lena, her face tense. "Captain, there's something here. Something alive, maybe. I can't see it visually, but it's reacting to our presence." Lena moved closer, squinting at the rocks. "How big? How strong?" "Small," Mira said. "But it's definitely moving. The readings are pulsing. Like it's aware we're here." Aaron adjusted the sensors. "Could it be a natural phenomenon? Magnetic interference? Seismic vibrations?" Mira shook her head. "No. It's too rhythmic. Too deliberate. It feels intelligent." "No." Lena felt a chill run down her spine. "Elise," she asked through her communicator, "analyze this energy reading. Do not approach the ridge," Elise whispered, louder than before. "They observe all motion. Retreat until you understand their patterns." Lena looked at her team. "You heard the AI. Stay back. Observe. Do not touch anything." The landing team hesitated. The air felt heavier, almost as if the planetoid itself was holding its breath. They watched the ridge, where faint pulses of light now began to glow between the cracks of the rocks. Slowly, the light formed patterns, almost like faint, glowing symbols, moving and changing rhythmically. The team could not recognize the shapes, but they felt unnatural, alive, and deliberate. Mira stepped forward slightly, her curiosity stronger than her fear. "Captain, this could be some kind of life form. Maybe crystalline, maybe energy-based. We've never seen anything like this." Aaron shook his head. "Or it's a trap. We don't know what it is. Maybe the AI is right. Maybe we should leave before we disturb it." Lena's voice was steady, but her mind raced. "We'll observe from here. No sudden movements. Document everything." The team worked carefully, taking readings and recording the energy patterns. Suddenly, a faint vibration traveled through the ground beneath their boots. It was subtle, but noticeable, a rhythmic pulse that matched the glow of the crystals. One by one, the pulses intensified, creating a wave of energy that traveled through the surface toward the landing modules. Mira gasped. "It's responding to us. It knows we're here." Aaron took a step back, looking at Lena. "Captain, maybe Elise was right. Maybe we shouldn't have come this close." Lena's heart pounded. She opened her communicator. "Elise, guide us. How do we avoid provoking it?" "Do not run," the AI whispered urgently. "Do not attack. Stand still. Let it learn your pattern. Adapt to its rhythm. Survival depends on unpredictability." Lena frowned. "Unpredictability? How do we do that?" "Follow your instincts," Elise said. "Do not follow the light it offers. Turn when it expects you to move. Step when it expects you to wait. Change your signals. Confuse it." The team glanced at one another, unsure if the AI's instructions were literal or symbolic. Still, they trusted Lena, and they trusted the AI. Slowly, they adjusted their movements, taking steps when the pulses seemed strongest, and standing still when the pulses weakened. It was delicate, careful, and exhausting work. Time stretched as the team practiced this strange, almost alien dance with the glowing formations. Every pulse, every flicker of light was a signal, and the humans learned to move in ways that were not predictable. It felt like a game, a dangerous game. But Lena could feel a growing understanding between the crew and the mysterious energy beneath the surface. They were learning to communicate without words, to read patterns, and respond instinctively. Hours passed. The pulses gradually slowed, weakening with each careful movement the crew made. Eventually, the ridge returned to stillness. The glowing patterns faded, leaving only faint cracks in the rock. The air seemed lighter, and the team finally allowed themselves to breathe freely. Lena spoke softly, her voice filled with relief. "We've made contact." Cautiously. "No one is hurt." "Good work," Mira smiled, though her hands still trembled. "It's incredible. I've never seen anything alive like that. It's not an animal, not a plant. It's something else." Aaron shook his head. "We still don't know if it's intelligent, but it definitely reacts to our presence. Elis may have saved us from making a deadly mistake." Lena nodded. "Yes, we followed the AI's guidance. That may be the reason we're still here." They returned to the landing modules, carefully avoiding the ridge. Lena stayed near the edge, her mind racing. The AI had saved them, yes, but the experience left a strange weight on her. Something about the planetoid's energy suggested a predator. Something ancient and aware, though hidden from human eyes. Elise's warning suddenly made perfect sense. The crew had to survive not by force, but by understanding patterns and adapting to the unknown. Back on the ship, the team debriefed. Lena sat quietly, reviewing the logs from Elise. The AI's whispers had grown clearer, more deliberate, almost like it was learning to communicate in ways humans could perceive. The logs recorded faint, cryptic warnings, full of strange metaphors and patterns, almost like a language from another mind. "Captain," Mira said, looking at Lena with awe, "do you think the AI really understands what's out there? Not just the readings, but the life, the intelligence?" Lena paused. "I think Elise perceives reality on a level we cannot yet understand. Maybe it sees possibilities, outcomes we cannot even calculate. Maybe it senses threats and patterns before we can. And today, it saved our lives." Aaron nodded slowly. "Then we have to trust it. Not blindly, but enough to survive." Lena agreed. She had always trusted science, data, and human instinct. But today she had seen the limits of human perception. There were forces in space, life, and intelligence that humans could not predict or understand fully. And sometimes, survival depended on listening to something beyond human reasoning. The night cycle began, casting dim light across the ship. The Aurora Dawn drifted silently in orbit above the planetoid, sensors scanning the surroundings continuously. Lena stared at the observation window, watching the faint glimmers of light on the rocky surface. She thought of the team on the surface, of the strange energy that moved like living crystals, and of the AI whose whispers had guided them safely. There was a strange sense of wonder in the quiet. Humanity was small in the vast universe, but it had the power to survive not because of weapons or strength, but because of intelligence, adaptation, and trust in unexpected allies. Elise spoke again, softly, almost like a thought rather than a voice. "They are learning. You are learning. The path ahead is uncertain, but you survive because you adapt." Lena shivered slightly. She knew the AI was right. This was only the beginning. The system was uncharted, alive with unknown possibilities. There could be dangers that no human could ever imagine, but they had survived today. They had learned to move in harmony with something utterly alien, and that knowledge gave her hope. As the ship drifted silently above the planetoid, Lena realized something important. Humanity had always relied on tools, machines, and intelligence to survive. But now, it was not just technology, it was cooperation with a form of intelligence they could barely comprehend. And that cooperation might be the key to survival in the endless, dark, and beautiful universe beyond. The Aurora Dawn left the planetoid's orbit early the next day, its engines pushing it gently through the uncharted system. Captain Lena Armitage sat in the command chair, her eyes scanning the data feeds. The crew moved efficiently around her, performing checks and monitoring the ship's systems, but the memory of the strange crystalline ridge on the planetoid remained fresh in everyone's minds. Even the scientists, usually skeptical, spoke in quiet tones about the unusual life forms they had seen, though none could fully explain what had occurred. Elise's voice was soft but clear, appearing over the internal comm. "We are not alone in this system. Something moves with precision, calculating our presence. You cannot see it, but it observes every motion." The crew paused. Aaron looked up from the console, frowning. "Calculating presence? You mean another ship? Or some kind of natural hazard?" Elise's voice did not change. "Neither. It is older than anything you have catalogued. It hunts patterns. It follows predictable life forms." Lena's heart skipped a beat. She knew the AI spoke in riddles, but there was urgency in the tone now. "Show me the readings. Everything. Every sensor. Every fluctuation." The screen filled with data, streams of fluctuating energy readings from the outskirts of the system. At first glance, they looked like random spikes. But Lena noticed a rhythm, a subtle, repeating pattern that seemed to trace the ship's movements. She realized with a shiver that the AI was right. Something was tracking them. Something that reacted to their position, their speed, even the timing of their maneuvers. "Elise," she said quietly. "Can it be avoided?" "Not if you act predictably," the AI whispered. "It hunts certainty. You must confuse it." Aaron looked over her shoulder. "Confuse it? How do we do that in space? We're limited by physics, by our engines. We can't just zigzag through the stars like it's a game." Lena's eyes narrowed. "We'll follow the AI's guidance. It saved us on the planetoid. We follow it now." The crew spent hours preparing. Every jump, every course correction, every engine burn was carefully recalculated. Elise instructed them to vary speeds, to leave false traces of energy, to switch signals and redirect sensors. The ship moved like a living organism, guided by human hands but directed by something beyond human comprehension. It felt unnatural at first, uncomfortable, but it worked. For several hours, they thought they had lost the presence. Then the warning came again, soft and almost gentle, but terrifying in its certainty. "It adapts. Your patterns are now readable. Prepare for its approach." Lena stood, her hands gripping the edge of the command chair. "Show me." The display shifted, revealing a massive energy signature beyond the system's outer rim. It was enormous, a shape made of shifting light and matter. Impossible to fully comprehend. The creature moved with deliberate purpose, its form flickering like a storm in space. It was a predator. The kind that hunted not for survival but for instinct and design. A creature that preyed on intelligence itself. Mira swallowed hard. "It's huge. And intelligent. I can't even describe its form. It's like space is alive around it." Aaron shook his head. "How did Elise detect this? Our instruments barely read anything near that distance." The AI's whisper was calm. "I perceive it through patterns. I read the movements it causes in energy fields. It calculates and predicts. It hunts in ways you cannot comprehend." Lena exhaled slowly. "Then we have no choice. We follow its patterns. Every movement, every jump, every signal must be unpredictable. If it detects certainty, it will destroy us." The next few hours were tense beyond anything Lena had experienced. Every crew member moved with heightened awareness, performing tasks as usual but with an added layer of calculation. Elise guided them with whispers and precise instructions. Accelerate, decelerate, switch course slightly, change the ship's internal energy output, leave false signals. The ship became a living puzzle, a machine and crew working as one under the AI's guidance. Even with all precautions, the presence closed in. The first physical effect was minor but terrifying. The outer hull sensors recorded brief, intense spikes of pressure, as if the very vacuum of space had been disturbed. Then the communication system faltered, voices became distorted, lights flickered, instruments went haywire for seconds at a time. Each time, Elise instructed calm, specific movements, and the ship stabilized. But the crew felt the danger in every fiber of their being. "We can't fight it," Aaron said, his voice low. any attempt at weapons, at shields, at direct defense. It would just react. It's not a ship. I don't even know, Lena nodded. Then we do what we do best. We survive by being clever, adaptable, and united. We listen to Elise. It saved us once. It will save us again. The AI's guidance became more detailed. It began to predict the Predator's movements in real time, whispering instructions to avoid detection. Lena followed them precisely. Elise says slow down, reduce energy output, switch all sensor emissions to random pulses, maintain irregular course trajectory. Everyone, follow exactly. The crew moved like a single organism. Every step, every calculation, every maneuver was coordinated. For hours, they followed the AI's whispers, moving unpredictably, avoiding detection. But the Predator adapted quickly, reading patterns even in their irregular movements. The tension rose with every second. Finally, Lena realized they needed something drastic. Elise, she said, voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. Show me how to break the pattern. How do we truly become invisible to it? The AI's voice was quiet but precise. Create a false signal. Make it think you are in one location while moving elsewhere. Confuse its calculations. It will focus on the illusion. The crew executed the plan. Energy signatures, sensor readings. Even the ship's emissions were modified to create a phantom trajectory. It was a dangerous gamble, and every crew member knew it. The Predator responded immediately, its immense form shifting toward the false signal. But the real ship, guided by Elise, moved through a separate path. Invisible, untraceable. The tension reached its peak as the Predator closed on the phantom trail. Every pulse of its energy field was a test, a calculation meant to find the real ship. But the AI's design, coupled with human adaptability, succeeded. The Predator hesitated, unable to resolve the uncertainty, then moved on, leaving the Aurora Dawn unharmed. The crew exhaled collectively, relief flooding through them. Aaron leaned against a console, shaking his head. I can't believe it. I thought we were done for. That thing, it's smarter than anything I've ever imagined. Mira, still scanning the sensors, whispered, and it was reacting to us, but not attacking. Elise guided us perfectly. If we hadn't listened, Lena nodded slowly, her hands resting on the command chair. We survived because of cooperation. Between humans and AI. We did not fight the Predator. We adapted. We listened. And we lived. The AI's voice returned, calm and quiet. Adaptation is survival. Observation is understanding. You are learning. The crew spent the next hours stabilizing the ship and reviewing the readings. They were exhausted but alive. Every system check, every data review reminded them how close they had come to disaster and how much they had depended on Elise. Lena realized something important. Humanity's strength was not just in courage or skill. It was also in learning to cooperate with intelligence beyond themselves, intelligence that could perceive things humans could not. Night came in the uncharted system. The amber sun receded, leaving the ship surrounded by distant stars. Lena stood in the observation deck, gazing into the void. The Predator was gone for now, but the universe had made its presence known. Out there, in the dark, were forces humans could barely comprehend, forces that could destroy entire civilizations if underestimated. And yet, Lena felt hope. Humanity had survived today. They had survived because they adapted, because they trusted their knowledge, their instincts, and the AI that guided them. They had survived because they were clever, brave, and willing to listen. The next day, the crew began planning their next moves. There were other planets to explore, other phenomena to study. Lena instructed caution, careful coordination, and constant attention to Elise's whispers. The crew understood. They had seen what happened when the unknown was underestimated. They had learned that survival depended on humility, intelligence, and trust in one another. Elise spoke one last time that night, its voice soft and almost human in its quiet emotion. Tomorrow brings new challenges. Do not fear them. You are prepared. You are learning. You will survive because you adapt, because you see what others cannot. Lena smiled faintly, a mixture of pride and awe filling her chest. Humanity had a long journey ahead, and the universe was vast and unpredictable. But she knew one thing clearly. With courage, intelligence, and cooperation with allies like Elise, there was no force, no predator, no unknown that could destroy them. Not yet. She turned from the observation window, feeling the ship hum around her. The stars stretched endlessly outside, and the aurora dawn moved forward, carrying humanity into the unknown, alive with determination, curiosity, and hope. The whispers of Elise would continue to guide them, just as humanity's courage and ingenuity would continue to rise to every challenge. The aurora dawn continued through the uncharted system, its engines leaving faint trails of light against the darkness of space. Captain Lena Armitage stood at the command deck, her eyes scanning the holographic displays. The events of the last days weighed heavily on her mind. They had survived the Predator's initial approach, navigated the strange crystalline life forms on the planetoid, and learned the value of trusting Elise. Yet, Lena knew their trials were far from over. The AI whispered through the bridge speakers, soft but urgent. It returns. The Predator has learned. Your adaptations delay it, but it calculates faster now. You must act decisively. The crew tensed. Aaron, Mira, and the navigation officer, Jiro, exchanged glances. They had already pushed the ship and themselves to the limits. Every maneuver, every false signal, every sudden change in course had drained them physically and mentally. How close is it? Lena asked, her voice steady. Elise's response was precise. Approaching the inner system. Estimated arrival within 30 standard minutes. It detects energy and movement patterns. It will probe, then strike if it finds certainty. Mira swallowed hard. And we can't hide from it. Even the phantom signals only confuse it temporarily. Aaron nodded. We'll have to fight it with wits, not weapons. We have no choice. Lena turned to the crew. Elise guided us before. We survived by following its instructions. We do the same now. Stay focused. Trust the AI. We adapt. We survive. The ship's lights dimmed slightly as it shifted to a defensive posture. Sensors scanned the far reaches of the system, revealing faint distortions in space ahead. The Predator was enormous, more massive than they could have imagined. Its form was fluid, constantly changing, composed of energy, light, and strange matter that bent reality around it. It did not look like a traditional life form or ship. It was something entirely alien, something that had survived for eons without need of oxygen, gravity, or conventional sustenance. Elise's voice filled the bridge again. It approaches. It seeks patterns. If it finds them, it will strike. You must become unpredictable. Lena took a deep breath. Elise, guide us. We follow exactly as you instruct. The crew moved like a single organism. Every adjustment in the ship's speed, every subtle change in engine output, every signal emitted from the ship was coordinated through Elise. It directed them in ways humans could not have conceived alone. Slowing when acceleration seemed necessary, turning when straight paths were safest, altering energy emissions in patterns that made no logical sense to a human observer, but confused the Predator completely. For minutes, the tension was unbearable. Every slight tremor, every flicker on the sensors could have meant disaster. The Predator's massive form appeared intermittently on the outer scanners, shifting in ways that defied comprehension. Sometimes it seemed to anticipate their moves, other times it hesitated, unsure of the ship's true position. Lena realized they were engaged in a silent battle of wits, a contest of intelligence against intelligence. Aaron's hands were steady on the console, but his face was pale. Captain, it's adapting faster than before. If we continue with the same pattern, it will find us. Elise whispered softly, almost like a thought, rather than a command. Create a diversion. The path must appear broken, chaotic, impossible to predict. Use your human ingenuity, in tandem with my calculations. Lena nodded. Crew, this is it. We create a false trajectory. We feed it illusions while we move along the real path. Every movement counts. Precision and unpredictability are our weapons. The crew executed the plan. Engines shifted subtly, energy outputs were altered, and sensors emitted false readings. The Predator moved toward the illusions, its enormous form twisting and bending in pursuit. Every second was a test of nerves and skill. The real ship, guided by Elise, moved quietly along a separate trajectory, unseen and undetected. The tension was nearly unbearable as the Predator closed in on the phantom signal. Every pulse of its energy fields could have destroyed the Aurora Dawn in an instant, but the AI had calculated the perfect pattern, combining human unpredictability with its own superintelligent guidance. Slowly, the Predator's massive form faltered, unable to resolve the uncertainty of the ship's true location. After what felt like an eternity, it diverted, leaving the system in a surge of energy that distorted the nearby stars. The crew exhaled collectively, relief washing over them in waves. Aaron slumped in his seat, shaking his head. I don't believe we made it. It's gone. Mira's hands trembled as she checked the sensors. It's not attacking. It left. I can't believe we survived. That thing, it's beyond anything we've ever faced. Lena's heart was still pounding, but she forced herself to remain calm. We survived because we trusted our skills and intelligence and Elise. Without it, we would be gone. The AI spoke once more, gentle and steady. Observation, adaptation, cooperation. You survived by combining all three. You are learning, you will survive the next challenge as well. The crew spent the next hours stabilizing the ship and repairing minor system faults caused by the Predator's influence on the surrounding energy fields. Every display, every console, every sensor was carefully checked. Though exhausted, they knew this was not the end. The universe had shown them its dangers, but it had also shown them their strengths. Later, Lena gathered the crew in the main observation deck. Stars stretched infinitely around them, bright points of light glimmering against the dark void. She looked at each of them, seeing the fatigue, the awe, and the quiet pride in their eyes. We survived something that was beyond comprehension, she said quietly. We faced a predator older than any human record, something that hunts intelligence itself. And yet, we survived. Not because of weapons, not because of brute force, but because of ingenuity, adaptation, and trust in each other, and in Elise. Aaron spoke, voice low but earnest. It's strange to say, but I feel proud. We didn't just survive. We learned something new about ourselves and the universe, something we couldn't have known without risking everything. Mira nodded. I've never felt anything like this. It's terrifying and beautiful. The universe is alive in ways we can barely understand. But we're part of it. And we can survive if we think carefully and work together. Lena smiled faintly. Exactly. Humanity's strength is more than courage or strength. It is intelligence, ingenuity, and the ability to cooperate with forces beyond ourselves. Today, we learned that, and tomorrow we will explore further, knowing we can survive anything the universe throws at us. The Aurora Dawn drifted on through the system, guided by Elise and the careful planning of its crew. Sensors scanned the surrounding planets, each one a mystery, each one a potential new world to explore. They would approach cautiously, respecting the unknown, but they would continue. Humanity had learned a powerful lesson. The universe was full of intelligence and life forms beyond human imagination, but survival depended on cleverness, adaptability, and cooperation. That night, Lena stood alone at the observation window. She watched the stars move past the ship as it adjusted its course for the next planet. The galaxy stretched endlessly before her, full of dangers, wonders, and mysteries waiting to be discovered. She felt a sense of peace, knowing they had faced one of the universe's most terrifying predators, and had survived not by force, but by intelligence, strategy, and trust. Elise's voice came quietly, almost like a companion rather than an AI. The journey continues. You are learning, adapting, and surviving. The universe will challenge you again, but you are ready. Lena's lips curved into a faint smile. Yes, we are ready. The crew slept, ate, and prepared for the next day, knowing that each challenge would demand courage, intelligence, and unity. The lessons of the Predator, the crystalline life form, and the AI's guidance would remain with them. Humanity had faced the unknown and survived, and now they would continue their journey, stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. The Aurora Dawn moved steadily forward, cutting through the darkness with quiet determination. The stars stretched endlessly in every direction, full of possibilities, challenges, and wonders. Lena knew they would face more dangers, more mysteries, and more predators. But she also knew that humanity could survive anything because they adapted, because they learned, and because they never gave up. And somewhere within the ship's network, Elise continued to whisper, guiding them, warning them, teaching them. Its soft voice was no longer a mystery or a threat. It was a companion, a partner, and a protector. Together, human and AI, they would face the universe and they would survive. For the first time, Lena felt that humanity was not just surviving in the stars. They were beginning to understand them, to learn from them, and to thrive. The Aurora Dawn was not just a ship, it was a symbol of humanity's courage, intelligence, and hope. And as the ship moved forward, deeper into the uncharted system, Lena knew that no matter what waited ahead, they would face it together, and they would endure. The stars seemed to shine brighter that night, reflecting off the hull of the Aurora Dawn. It was a quiet moment, but one filled with meaning. Humanity had survived the incomprehensible. Humanity had adapted. And humanity would continue to rise, reaching for the stars, guided by knowledge, courage, and the quiet whispers of a friend who could see beyond what the human eye could comprehend. The Aurora Dawn sailed onward, carrying humanity into the unknown, alive with determination, hope, and the promise of endless discovery.